Dillian Whyte defeats Dereck Chisora on a 12-round split decision in a very, very close and actually very good and very tough fight. First of all, yes, I did pick Dillian Whyte to win this fight on points, and he won on points, obviously, but my prediction was, as far as I'm concerned, totally wrong, because the fight did not play out anything like I expected it to. I thought that Dillian Whyte would be able to control things from the outside far more comfortably than he did, but Dereck Chisora's physical strength really was far more of a factor than I expected, and he was able to bully Dillian Whyte for the majority of the fight, at least the first half of the fight. It's not until the second half of the fight, when Dereck Chisora started getting tired, that Dillian Whyte was able to get on his front foot and started winning rounds almost by default. Yeah, he did win a few rounds in the first half of the fight, but for me, I think after 7 rounds, I had Chisora up. So the first half of the fight, Chisora was doing a lot of good work. The second half of the fight, he was very, very tired, and that allowed Dillian Whyte to just take rounds where Chisora was just backing off to the ropes and hardly doing anything, and Dillian Whyte wasn't really doing much. He was knackered himself, but he was just throwing a few pity-patty shots here and there and nicking the round because of that. I've said in the past that I think Dillian Whyte would beat any version of Dereck Chisora. I was clearly wrong, because if that had been the Dereck Chisora that fought Robert Helenius, and credit to people who disagreed with me on this, because they were clearly right and I was clearly wrong about this, but those people who said that the Chisora who fought Helenius and Klitschko would have beaten Dillian Whyte, they were absolutely right. Based on the evidence of that, the Chisora who fought Klitschko and Helenius would have beaten Whyte and beaten him soundly, I think. Yeah, because Chisora didn't have it in the tank in the second half of the fight. He came into this fight with a lot of aggression. He was fighting with a lot of passion. He was throwing hard shots. He was actually punching a lot more correctly than I've seen him punch for many, many a fight. And part of that might be down to the fact that Dillian Whyte was an easier target than a lot of the guys he's been facing over the past few years. So he didn't have to reach with his punches. Dillian Whyte was right in front of him, so he could throw them short, and therefore they were landing a lot more cleanly. I felt that Chisora landed the better power shots throughout the fight. Even in some of the rounds that I thought he maybe lost, I still felt he landed the cleaner shots, but it just weren't enough of them. And Dillian Whyte was maybe dominating for, 70-80% of the round, just throwing pity-patty shots and pushing Chisora back. And yeah, Dillian Whyte did land some power shots here and there, don't get it twisted, but the most eye-catching shots, for the most part, particularly through the first half of the fight that I remember, were all coming from Chisora. And by the way, my scorecard for this fight, I actually had Chisora winning. I didn't have Dillian Whyte winning, I had Chisora winning the fight by a point. I could have even had him by 2 points, but I had him by a point. So it was a very close fight, not the fight I expected at all. Props to those people who said it was going to be very close and tough, and it would not be a comfortable victory for Dillian Whyte at all, and that's the way it turned out to be. So I was way off on my prediction, even though on paper it's going to be correct. In terms of the way the fight actually played out, I was way off. I'm not going to do nothing but hold my hands up about that. So, but bottom line is, it was actually a good fight, a really good fight. It was entertaining, it was exciting. I think the crowd got their money's worth. Some people were kind of worried that this fight would be boring and an anticlimax, and it actually turned out to be the opposite of that pretty much. I mean, it wasn't the thrill in Manila or anything. There was still a fair amount of clinching and whatnot, but there was some very heated exchanges in this fight. A lot of passionate action and, pause, that sounded a bit gay there. But it was a lot of passionate exchanges of punches. And yeah, it was a good spectacle, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Dillian Whyte, you would have thought, would gain more from a fight like that than Dereck Chisora, although some people might dispute that. Chisora, at this stage of his career, does he really need to be in tough fights? Is that going to give Chisora more, or is that going to take more from him? Maybe that will bring Whyte on and, show him that he needs to up his fitness levels even higher, because at the end of the day, Chisora really was old manning him in there. Even though Dillian Whyte throws nice counters and stuff like that, Chisora knew how to pace a lot of the rounds. He knew to take it easy in the first maybe half minute of the round, 2 minutes, and then come on strong for the third minute and win the round that way. So his experience did tell in that sense, and he was old manning Dillian Whyte a lot in there. And again, it was disappointing to me, but maybe not surprising to a lot of you out there that Dillian Whyte wasn't able to keep Chisora on the outside more effectively. Now, some people would say, well, Dillian Whyte should have actually maybe clinched Chisora more to tie him up. He wasn't clinching that much at all in the fight. He was trying to fight clean, and when Chisora came in, he was trying to hold his guard and exchange with him. But that just allowed Chisora to get shots off. And he was definitely the physically stronger man in there. No question about it, the physically stronger man, and the guy, I think, with the much better engine. So, yeah, it is what it is. A 12-round split decision win for Dillian Whyte. I had Chisora winning. I'm sure a lot of you out there had Chisora winning. The crowd certainly seemed to feel that Chisora won the fight. But it was close. You know, it's not act like it was a robbery. A split decision, and the scores that they had, you can't really argue with. But, yeah. My prediction was totally off. Again, credit to those people whose predictions were bang on. Yeah, so drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you felt about the fight. Where do you see both fighters going from here? Obviously, including in my mind, I have to reassess the way I've been viewing Dillian Whyte in terms of his, well, at least his ability against pressure fighters. You know, if you put him in there with Andy Ruiz, I mean, somebody today was talking about, you know, before this fight was talking about Andy Ruiz versus Dillian Whyte. I'd have to pick Andy Ruiz over Dillian Whyte, definitely, based on that performance, because he wasn't able to keep Chisora off, and Andy Ruiz being a much faster-handed fighter than Dereck Chisora, I think he'd get to Dillian Whyte. You know, I really do. So I definitely pick Ruiz over him. You know, Dillian Whyte, in order to operate effectively, he needs space, because he likes throwing these little counters like the way he caught Joshua and stuff like that. He likes space. He likes being given time to get his shots off. When you crowd him the way that Chisora did, that's clearly one way to beat Dillian Whyte. No question about it. So I'm definitely going to have to bear that in mind going forward, and definitely be picking Ruiz to beat him. Obviously, there are still some guys out there that Dillian Whyte I think could beat and cause problems too, but it's going to be guys that are not too fast and guys that give him space. Yeah, when guys crowd him, they can beat him. So those are my thoughts on the fight, people. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, for those of you who ain't seen the fight, it was a great fight. Make sure you catch it. And there's been quite a few good fights on this card. The Joshua Molina fight is about to start, so I'm going to watch that. And yeah, let me know how you feel. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.